You remembered that? The words slipped out before I could stop them, and the new barista looked at me like maybe he had been waiting for me to notice. It was a Monday morning, raining just enough to make everyone in Portland act personally betrayed by the weather. I was half awake, laptop bag digging into my shoulder, standing in line at Birch and Third, the coffee shop I went to almost every weekday, because my apartment was too quiet and my upstairs neighbor had recently discovered indoor cycling. Nothing about that morning was supposed to matter. I was supposed to order, pay, sit by the window, answer emails, and pretend my life was organized. Then I saw him behind the counter. He was new. I would have remembered him if he wasn't. Tall, brown hair pushed back like he had tried to fix it once, and then gave up, sleeves rolled to his forearms, black apron tied a little crooked. Not model hot. Worse, real person hot. The kind that made normal eye contact feel like a test. When I got to the register, he smiled. Morning. What can I get started for you? I cleared my throat like an idiot. Iced oat milk latte. Less ice. Extra shot. Bold choice for this weather. I make bad decisions before 9 a.m. That got a small laugh out of him. Not loud. Just enough to make my stomach do something annoying. He tapped the screen, then glanced up. Name? Evan. He repeated it once, quietly, like he was making sure he got it right. Evan. I don't know why that hit me. People said my name all the time, usually while asking if I'd sent revisions yet. But the way he said it made me feel weirdly present, like I wasn't just another tired guy ordering caffeine with a dead look in his eyes. I paid, stepped aside, and immediately told myself to relax. He was a barista. He was paid to be nice. That was literally the job. I found my usual table by the front window, the one with the uneven leg and the outlet that only worked if you angled the plug like you were defusing a bomb. I opened my laptop, stared at a client email, and tried not to look back at the counter. I failed in under 10 seconds. He was steaming milk, talking to another customer, moving like he already knew the rhythm of the place. Once, he looked toward the window. I looked down so fast I almost clicked on the wrong file. Great. Perfect. Very normal behavior from a grown man. A few minutes later, he called my name. Not iced latte. Not extra shot. Just Evan. I walked up, and the cup was waiting there with my name written clearly across the side. Not even. Not Kevin. Evan. For some reason, that made me smile. You spelled it right. He leaned one hand on the counter. Low bar. You'd be surprised. His eyes stayed on mine for 1 second longer than customer service required. I tried to remember the important stuff. My chest tightened. It was such a simple sentence. Probably nothing. Definitely nothing. I grabbed the cup too quickly, and our fingers almost brushed, close enough that I felt the heat of his hand without actually touching it. Thanks, I muttered. Anytime. I went back to my table and took a sip just to have something to do. It was perfect. Annoyingly perfect. Less ice, extra shot, not too sweet, exactly how I liked it. I told myself he was just good at his job. I told myself I was tired. I told myself pretty guys remembered orders all the time, and that didn't mean anything. But the next morning, when I walked in still shaking rain off my jacket, he looked up before I even reached the register. His face changed just a little. Like he recognized me. Like he was glad. And before I could say a single word, he smiled and said, Same as yesterday, Evan. I should have turned around and left. Not because anything bad had happened. Because nothing had happened, and somehow that was worse. Caleb was just standing behind the register with that easy, half-awake smile, already reaching for a clear plastic cup before I opened my mouth. Same as yesterday, Evan? My brain went completely blank. I had prepared for small talk. I had prepared to act normal. I had not prepared for him to remember me after 1 cup of coffee and 1 awkward conversation. You remember that? It came out too fast. Caleb's mouth twitched. I remember complicated people. My order is not complicated. He looked down at the cup, then back at me. Iced oat milk latte. Less ice. Extra shot. Not too sweet. You sat by the window for almost 3 hours and frowned at your laptop like it personally betrayed you. Heat climbed up my neck. That was one time. It was yesterday. Still counts. He laughed under his breath and turned toward the espresso machine. I stood there like I had forgotten how coffee shops worked. Someone behind me cleared their throat, and I moved aside so quickly I nearly walked into the pastry case. Great. Smooth. Very cool. I went to my window table, trying not to watch him make the drink. But that was impossible, because now I knew he had watched me yesterday. Not in a creepy way, just enough to notice. Enough to remember. That should not have mattered. Plenty of people had good memory. Plenty of people were observant. None of that meant he was interested. It meant he was good with customers. That was it. That was the safe explanation. I opened my laptop and stared at the same email for a full minute without reading a word. Then Caleb appeared beside my table. Not at the counter. Beside my table. Figured I would save you the trip. He set the cup down near my hand. Less ice this time. Yesterday it melted before you finished. My stomach did this small, stupid drop. You noticed that too? Caleb shrugged like it was nothing, but his eyes did not leave my face. You kept making that disappointed face every time you took a sip near the end. I have a disappointed face? You have several. I should have laughed. I did, kind of. But it came out softer than I meant. That feels insulting. It was not. He leaned a little closer, just enough that I caught the warm smell of coffee on his apron. The laptop betrayal one is my favorite. For a second, neither of us moved. The cafe kept going around us. Cups clinked. The grinder screamed. Someone near the door complained about parking. But right there, at that little uneven table by the window, everything felt strangely quiet. Then Caleb glanced at my screen. Deadline. I looked down and realized I had not typed anything. Freelance design thing. Client wants modern, but also timeless, which means they do not know what they want. Sounds painful. It pays rent. Barely. I looked up. He was smiling again, but gentler this time. Like he was not just joking. Like he actually wanted the answer. Barely, I admitted. His smile shifted into something smaller. Then I made it strong enough. That should have been nothing. Just a coffee joke. But the way he said it made my chest tighten anyway. Before I could answer, someone at the counter called his name. Caleb straightened, but he did not leave right away. His fingers tapped once against the edge of my table. Try it before I go. I picked up the cup, took a sip, and hated how perfect it was. Caleb watched my face. Well, annoyingly good. Annoyingly. Do not get confident. His grin showed up slow. Too late. Then he walked back behind the counter, and I sat there with my heart beating harder than a cup of coffee could explain. I told myself it was nothing. He was friendly. He probably talked like that to everyone. But later, when I got up to use the restroom, I noticed something on the chair across from mine. A folded napkin. One word written on it in black marker. Save. By Thursday, I was pretending the cafe was just part of my routine again. That was the lie I chose because it sounded better than admitting I had started checking my reflection in dark storefront windows before walking in. Caleb had made the lie harder by saving my table every morning. Not loudly. Not in a way anyone else would notice. Just a napkin on the chair, folded once, with one word in black marker. Saved. The first time, I told myself it was customer service. The second time, I told myself maybe he was bored. By the fourth time, I had no explanation left that did not make my chest feel weird. You know, I told him while he handed me my latte. This is how regulars get entitled. Caleb glanced toward the window table, then back at me. You saying I am spoiling you? I am saying one day someone else is going to sit there, and I am going to become a problem. His smile came quick, then faded just enough to make the air change. Then I guess I will have to keep saving it. I waited for the joke after that. Some easy line. Some little laugh to make it harmless. Caleb did not give me one. He just looked at me, steady and quiet, like he knew exactly what he had said and wanted to see if I would run from it. I looked away first. Of course I did. My pulse was already being dramatic. I took my cup to the table and tried to work, but my brain kept replaying his voice. I guess I will have to keep saving it. Normal sentence. Normal words. Completely normal reason to forget how to breathe for 3 seconds. Around noon, the cafe got slammed. Rain had everyone crowding inside, dripping on the floor, shaking umbrellas, ordering like caffeine could fix the weather. I had been there too long, pretending to revise a logo while actually watching Caleb move behind the counter. He was fast without looking rushed, patient with rude customers, gentle with the older woman who could not hear him over the grinder, annoyingly attractive in a way that had nothing to do with his face. Then a guy in a navy jacket tried to take the chair across from me. Is someone sitting here? Before I could answer, Caleb appeared beside the table with a towel in one hand. Actually, that one is taken. The guy blinked. Oh, sorry. He moved on. I stared at Caleb. Taken. Caleb started wiping a coffee ring off the table that was barely there. You put your bag there sometimes. My bag is on the floor. His hand paused. Just for half a second. Right. I should have let him off easy. I really should have. Instead, my mouth betrayed me. Are you protecting my personal space now? Caleb's eyes flicked up to mine. The cafe noise seemed to pull back again. Maybe. One word. That was it. One word, and my stomach dropped like I had missed a step. He looked away first this time, but not fast enough. I saw it. The same panic I felt. The same oh no, that sounded too real. He straightened and cleared his throat. You looked stressed. Crowds make it worse, right? I hated that he knew that. I hated it more that he was right. I am fine. You have been tapping your pen for 10 minutes. I looked down. My fingers were still moving. Caleb reached across the table, gentle, and tapped the pen once to stop it. His knuckle brushed mine. Barely. Nothing. Except neither of us moved. His hand stayed there a second too long, close enough that I could feel the warmth from his skin. Then a blender screamed behind the counter, and we both snapped back like we had been caught. Caleb stepped away, face a little pink. Sorry. I should get back. Yeah. My voice sounded awful. Work. He turned, then stopped like he had changed his mind. Without looking at me fully, he murmured, For what it is worth, I do not save seats for everyone. Then he walked away before I could respond. I sat there frozen, staring at my untouched laptop, heart hitting my ribs way too hard. I told myself it still could mean nothing. I tried. But this time, even I did not believe me. I avoided Birch in third for 2 full days, which would have been impressive if it had not been completely pathetic. I told myself I was busy. I told myself the deadline was brutal. I told myself paying $6 for coffee every morning was financially irresponsible. All of that was technically true. None of it was the reason. The reason was Caleb's hand near mine, his voice saying he did not save seats for everyone, and the fact that I had gone home that day and thought about it while brushing my teeth like an absolute disaster. By Friday afternoon, I gave up. My apartment was too quiet, my coffee tasted like burnt water, and apparently I had no pride left. When I walked in, Caleb was behind the counter wiping down the espresso machine. He looked up, and for 1 second his face did this thing. Relief, maybe, or surprise. Then he covered it with a smile that was almost too casual. Thought you found better coffee. I stepped closer to the register, trying to act like my pulse had not immediately changed speed. I was testing my loyalty. Caleb rested both hands on the counter. And I should have said the coffee was better here. That would have been normal. Safe. Easy. Instead, I looked at him and said, Still here. The words landed between us and stayed there. Caleb's smile softened until it was barely a smile at all. He looked down first, but not before I saw his throat move like he had swallowed something back. Same order. I nodded because my voice was busy betraying me. He wrote on the cup slowly, more carefully than usual. I watched his marker move over the plastic. Evan. Then, after a tiny pause, he added a question mark. I stared at it when he handed it over. Is my name a question now? Caleb leaned a little closer, elbows near the counter, voice low enough that the woman behind me could not hear. Kind of feels like one. My fingers tightened around the cup. What does that mean? His eyes lifted to mine. There it was again. That quiet edge. That almost. I do not know yet. A customer behind me shifted impatiently, and Caleb straightened fast, like he had just remembered where we were. I moved aside with my heart doing something stupid in my chest. I went to the window table, but the napkin was not there this time. No saved. No little note. For some reason, that hurt more than it should have. Maybe he had decided he had gone too far. Maybe I had disappeared for 2 days and made him feel stupid. Maybe this was what normal looked like after almost crossing a line. I opened my laptop and pretended to work, but every few minutes, I caught him looking over. Not smiling. Just checking. Like he wanted to come over and did not trust himself to. The afternoon dragged. Rain tapped lightly against the window. People came and went. Caleb's shift looked like it was ending because he disappeared into the back and came out without his apron, hoodie sleeves pushed up, hair messier than before. I started packing my laptop, suddenly nervous for no reason. He reached my table right as I stood. Too close. Not touching, but close enough that I had to tilt my head slightly to look at him. Evan. My name sounded different without the counter between us. Yeah. Caleb glanced toward the door, then back at me. His hand lifted a little, like he was going to touch my arm, then stopped halfway. Did I make things weird? The honest answer was yes. The safer answer was no. I somehow said neither. I think I made them weird first. His breath caught. Barely. But I noticed. So you felt it too? Everything in me went still. There it was. Too direct. Too real. The kind of question you could not joke your way out of. I looked at his hand still hovering near my sleeve. He noticed me noticing and slowly let it drop, but his knuckles brushed mine on the way down. This time, neither of us moved away. Not right away. My whole body went quiet around that tiny point of contact. Then the bell above the door jingled, and someone walked in laughing loudly into a phone. Caleb stepped back like the sound had cut a string. I picked up my bag too fast, almost knocking over my coffee. I should go. Yeah. He nodded, but his eyes stayed on me. Okay. I made it to the door before looking down at the receipt tucked under my cup sleeve. There, in Caleb's careful handwriting, were 4 words that made my chest tighten all over again. Missed your window seat. By Monday, I had read Caleb's receipt note so many times the paper had gone soft at the fold. Missed your window seat. 4 words. Not a confession. Not a date. Just enough to ruin my ability to act normal. I got to Birch and Third later than usual because I had a client meeting with Maya, another freelance designer who had somehow become my unofficial life translator. She knew when I was stressed, when I was lying, and when I was pretending a guy was not getting under my skin. Unfortunately, she was also meeting me at the cafe. This is the place. Maya pushed through the door behind me, shaking rain off her jacket. Cute. Very you. What does that mean? Overpriced, warm lighting, emotionally unavailable men with tote bags. That is aggressive for 10 in the morning. She grinned, then looked past me toward the counter. Her face changed immediately. Oh, my stomach tightened. What? Nothing. That was not a nothing. Oh. Is that him? I did not even have to ask who. Caleb was at the register, sleeves rolled up, hair falling forward slightly as he wrote on a cup. He looked tired in a good way. Real. Like Monday had gotten to him too. Then he looked up and saw me. His face opened for half a second before he noticed Maya beside me. The smile stayed, but something in it pulled back. Just a little. Just enough that I felt it. Morning, Evan. Caleb glanced at Maya, polite and careful. What can I get you both? Both. That word should not have mattered. It did. Usual for me. My voice sounded too casual. Maya leaned her elbows on the counter like she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. And I will do a vanilla latte. Also, I am Maya. Caleb smiled at her. Caleb, I know. I closed my eyes for half a second. Maya. She ignored me completely. Caleb's eyebrows lifted, amused but guarded. Should I be worried? Only if you make bad coffee. Maya tilted her head toward me. He has standards. He does. Caleb looked at me then, and the eye contact hit harder than it should have with Maya, standing right there. Hard to tell. He mostly just frowns at his laptop. That is affection, Maya announced. Do not let him fool you. Heat rushed up my neck. We are here to work. Sure. She took her receipt and moved aside, but not before giving me the kind of look that said I was absolutely getting interrogated later. Caleb made our drinks quietly. Too quietly. He still remembered mine. Still made it perfect. Still wrote my name correctly. But there was no question mark this time. No small drawing. No hidden note. Just Evan in clean black marker. When he handed Maya her latte, she smiled like a menace. Thanks. You have very memorable handwriting. Caleb's eyes flicked to me. He knew. Of course he knew. My chest tightened. Maya carried the drinks to my window table, which, thankfully, was empty. No napkin saved it today. I sat down, trying not to look bothered by that, which meant Maya noticed immediately. Okay, she murmured, opening her laptop. That man is either into you or dangerously good at customer retention. Do not start. Evan, he looked at you like you were a song he forgot he loved. That is insane. It is accurate. I glanced toward the counter. Caleb was taking someone else's order, but his shoulders seemed tense. He laughed at something the customer said. A guy in a navy jacket, maybe late 20s, attractive in that clean, confident way. He leaned on the counter too comfortably. Caleb smiled back because that was his job, because smiling at customers was literally what paid his rent. I knew that. I still hated how it felt. Maya followed my gaze and winced. Oh, you are down bad. I am not down anything. You just stared at that man smiling at someone else like you got rejected in a war movie. I looked back at my laptop. He is a barista, Maya. And you are a coward with a design degree. Before I could answer, Caleb walked past our table to wipe down the sugar station. He did not stop, did not tease, did not ask about my deadline. But as he passed, he placed a small brown paper bag beside my coffee. Blueberry muffin, he murmured, barely looking at me. Last one. Maya went completely silent. Caleb kept walking. I opened the bag slowly. Inside, on the folded top, he had written, "For your meeting." Not a big deal. My heart kicked hard once. Across from me, Maya leaned back in her chair, eyes wide with victory. Not a big deal, she whispered. I stared at the counter, where Caleb was now pretending very hard not to look at me. Shut up. I said nothing. But then Caleb finally glanced over, just once. His eyes met mine, then dropped to the muffin, then back to me. No smile, just something nervous and careful. And for the first time, it hit me that maybe I was not the only one scared of being obvious. The next morning, I walked into Birch in third prepared to be normal, which was usually the first sign I was about to be deeply embarrassing. Caleb was at the counter, talking to the guy in the navy jacket again. Same guy from yesterday. Same easy lean. Same confident smile. I hated that I recognized him. I hated more that Caleb laughed at something he said, head dipping slightly, hand resting on the register. My chest tightened before I could talk myself out of it. Ridiculous. I was jealous of a customer. A customer. I nearly turned around, but Caleb looked up right then. His laugh faded. Not all at once. Just enough. His eyes found mine and stayed there, like everything else in the cafe dropped a little quieter. Morning, Evan. The guy in the navy jacket glanced over his shoulder. I gave a small, stiff smile that probably looked more like I smelled something burning. Morning. Caleb waited for me to come closer. I did, because apparently I enjoyed suffering. Usual. His voice was careful. Too careful. Yeah. I pulled out my card. Please. Please. Who says please like they are apologizing for existing? Caleb noticed. Of course he did. He always noticed the worst things. His eyebrows drew together slightly, but the other guy was still standing there, so he only tapped the screen and handed me the receipt. No joke. No little line. No saved table. I went to the window seat without checking if he had put a napkin there. He had not. Fine. Good. Healthy, actually. Maybe this was the reset we needed. Maybe yesterday with Maya had made him realize he was being too familiar. Maybe I had imagined the whole thing because I was lonely and overcaffeinated and apparently one muffin away from emotional collapse. I opened my laptop and did not read a single word on the screen. The guy in the navy jacket left a few minutes later with 2 coffees. Caleb watched him go, then looked toward me. I immediately looked down. Smooth. Very mature. A few minutes passed. Then Caleb appeared beside my table with my drink. He did not just set it down and leave. He stood there, fingers wrapped around the cup, staring at the lid like he was trying to decide something. That was my cousin. I blinked up at him. What? Caleb's jaw moved once. The guy at the counter. Nate. My cousin. He'd hit my face so fast I wanted to disappear under the table. I did not ask. I know. He finally set the cup down. But you looked like you wanted to. My mouth opened, then closed. Nothing useful came out. Caleb gave this small, nervous laugh that did not sound like him. Sorry. That was too direct. No. I rubbed a hand over my face. I have no idea what my face is doing in this place anymore. That got him. His shoulders loosened a little, but his eyes stayed serious. Yesterday, when you came in with Maya, I thought she was... He stopped. Looked toward the counter. Looked back at me. I do not know. Someone. My heart kicked once. Someone. Someone who got to sit across from you without overthinking it. The cafe noise moved around us, cups and voices and the hiss of milk steaming, but I barely heard it. Caleb stood close enough that I could see the tiny crease between his brows. He looked embarrassed. Not smooth. Not flirty. Just honest in a way that made my chest ache. Caleb. His name came out softer than I meant. He glanced at my hand on the table. For 1 second, I thought he might reach for it. He did not. He just rested his fingers against the edge of the table, close to mine, but not touching. I tried to stop doing it, he admitted. The notes. The table. Remembering things I probably should not make a big deal out of. I could not move. Why? Caleb looked at me then, really looked. Because it started feeling less like work. My breath caught. He noticed that too. His voice dropped lower, almost lost under the grinder behind him. And I did not want you to leave thinking it was only that. There it was. Not a confession exactly, but close enough to make everything inside me go still. I stared at him, trying to find the joke. The easy exit. There was none. I thought maybe I was making it weird. I whispered. Caleb's mouth pulled into a small, uneven smile. You were. My stomach dropped. Then he added, but I did not hate it. For a second, neither of us moved. His fingers shifted on the table, and this time his knuckle brushed mine. Barely. On purpose, maybe. Or maybe not. I did not pull away. Neither did he. Then someone at the counter called his name, sharp and impatient. Caleb closed his eyes for half a second, like he hated the interruption. When he stepped back, he looked almost frustrated with himself. I have to, yeah. I nodded too quickly. Go make coffee. He started to leave, then turned back. Evan. I looked up. I am not trying to go back to normal. Then he walked behind the counter, leaving me sitting there with my untouched latte, my hand still warm where his had almost been, and absolutely no way to pretend this was one-sided anymore. For exactly one day after Caleb told me he was not trying to go back to normal, everything felt too good to trust. He saved my window table again. Not with the usual napkin. With my drink already sitting there, the ice still sharp, my name written on the side with one small line underneath it. Like he had wanted to make sure I saw it. I did see it. I saw everything now, which was the problem. I saw the way he looked over whenever the bell above the door rang. I saw how his smile changed when it was me. I saw how careful he got when other customers stood too close while we talked. And I saw him pull back the second one of his coworkers noticed. Her name was Tessa, I think. Short red hair, silver nose ring, permanently unimpressed. She was restocking lids when Caleb brought my coffee to the table, and she glanced between us once. Just once. Caleb noticed. His whole body changed. Not dramatically. He just straightened, put on that polite work smile, and moved his hand away from where it had been resting near mine. Let me know if you need anything else, he said, a little too bright. Like I was any other customer. Like the last 24 hours had not happened. My chest tightened before I could stop it. Sure. Thanks. His eyes flicked to mine, quick and apologetic. But then Tessa called. Caleb, can you grab more oat milk from the back? He left fast. Too fast. I tried to work, but my brain had already started doing that horrible thing where it builds a whole disaster out of one small moment. Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he liked the private version of whatever this was, but not the public one. Maybe I had mistaken. I do not want to go back to normal, for I know what I want. Those were not the same. Around closing time, I was still there, pretending to edit a logo I had already finished an hour ago. The cafe had emptied out except for a guy near the door and Tessa counting tips. Caleb wiped down tables, quieter than usual. He passed mine twice without stopping. The third time, I closed my laptop. I should head out. He froze for half a second, towel in hand. Already. I looked around the nearly empty shop. You are closing. You usually stay until I kick you out. There was the smallest smile, but it did not reach his eyes. I stood and slid my laptop into my bag. Did not want to make things weird at work. Caleb looked at me then. Really looked. The towel went still in his hand. Is that what you think you are doing? I do not know. I hated how honest that sounded. I just saw you earlier. With your coworker. You kind of... I stopped because suddenly I felt 12 years old. Caleb's expression shifted, worry cutting through the tiredness. I kind of what? I adjusted my bag strap, buying time I did not have. You acted like I was just a customer. The words landed badly. I knew it the second I said them. Caleb looked down, jaw tight, then glanced toward Tessa, who was still near the register but not paying attention. When he stepped closer, his voice dropped. Because you are at my job, Evan. Right? I nodded too fast. Yeah. No, I know. No, wait. He reached out like he might touch my wrist, then stopped himself. That almost touch somehow hurt worse. That came out wrong. I swallowed. It is fine. It is not. The bell above the door jingled as the last customer left. Tessa called from the counter. I am taking trash out back. Do not die in here. Neither of us answered. The cafe went quiet in that after-hours way, machines humming, lights too warm, rain tapping against the windows. Caleb exhaled slowly. I got scared. I looked up. His face was open now. Not smooth. Not guarded. Just nervous. Of Tessa. Of everyone noticing before we even know what this is. My chest softened and tightened at the same time. So there is a this? Caleb gave a small, helpless laugh. That is what scares me. I did not know what to say to that. Apparently neither did he. For a few seconds, we just stood there beside my window table, close enough to fix everything, scared enough not to. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, and whatever he saw made his face change. I have to answer that. Yeah. I stepped back. Of course. He looked like he wanted to stop me. He did not. And that was the part that followed me all the way home. Not what he said, what he did not do. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone had no messages, my jacket smelled faintly like coffee, and I had convinced myself that maybe Caleb was right to be scared. Maybe the routine was safer than ruining it. Then, just after midnight, my phone lit up with an unknown number. One text. Hey, it is Caleb. I did not want you to leave like that. I stared at Caleb's text until the screen dimmed. Then I tapped it awake and stared some more, like the words might rearrange into something easier. Hey, it is Caleb. I did not want you to leave like that. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for almost a full minute. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them because every version sounded either too casual or too honest. Finally, I sent, "You did let me leave." The second it delivered, I regretted it. Too sharp. Too much. Too late. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then his reply came through. I know. I am sorry. I sat on the edge of my bed, shoes still on, jacket still zipped, heart doing that stupid thing it only did around him. Before I could decide what to say next, another text came in. Can I call you? I should have said no. I should have slept, cleared my head, acted like a normal adult. Instead, I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. Caleb answered on the first ring. For a second, neither of us said anything. I could hear faint traffic on his end, maybe rain too, and his breathing close to the phone. Hi. His voice sounded softer without the cafe around it. Hi. Another pause. I handled that badly. I rubbed my palm over my knee. Which part? A quiet exhale. Almost a laugh, but not really. All of it. I looked toward my dark window, my reflection barely visible in the glass. You got scared. Yeah. And then I got embarrassed. I know. He sounded like he hated that part. I saw your face when I pulled back. I just did not know how to fix it without making it more obvious. Maybe obvious is not the worst thing. The words came out before I could soften them. Caleb went quiet. Not empty quiet. The heavy kind. The kind where something real is standing in the room even when you are miles apart. Evan. My chest tightened. What? I have been obvious since the second week. I stopped moving. Second week. The napkins. The muffin. The stronger coffee when you had deadlines. The table by the window. His voice dropped a little. I kept telling myself it was harmless because I was behind a counter and you were just being nice. I swallowed hard. I told myself the same thing. Were you? I knew what he meant. I looked down at my hand, still curled around the phone. Just being nice? Yeah. The safe answer was right there. I could have grabbed it. We could have laughed. Reset. Gone back to orders and window seats and pretending everything had a simple explanation. But I was so tired of safe. No, Caleb's breath caught quietly. I heard it. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I am trying not to say something stupid. That made me laugh under my breath, nervous and small. Same. There was a shift on his end, like he leaned against something. I did not want you to leave tonight because I thought I had ruined it. Ruined what? I needed him to say it. Maybe that was unfair, but I needed to hear it outside the cafe, away from Tessa and customers and receipts tucked under cup sleeves. Caleb took a second. Whatever this is. My eyes closed. There it was again. This. Still careful. Still unfinished. But real. That scares you. Yes. No joke. No dodge. Just yes. Why? Because I like seeing you every day. His voice was quiet now. Almost rough. And I know that sounds small, but it is not small to me. I look for you when the door opens. I make your drink before I know if you are coming in. I save that table like an idiot because I want you to stay. My throat tightened. I could not answer right away. Caleb kept going, faster now, like if he stopped, he would lose his nerve. And then when Tessa looked at us, I remembered I was at work and you were there with your laptop and your whole life. And I did not want you feeling trapped in some awkward thing you never asked for. Caleb. Yeah. I kept coming back because of you. Silence. Then a soft, shaky breath. That is dangerous information. I smiled even though my chest hurt. Tell me about it. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The quiet was different this time. Not empty. Not scared. Just full. Caleb finally murmured. I do not want to keep pretending you are just a regular. Good. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Because I do not want to keep pretending I only like the coffee. He laughed then, low and relieved, and I felt it all the way through me. It is good coffee. It is annoying coffee. You love it. I tolerate it for the atmosphere. the atmosphere, and maybe the barista. He went quiet again, but I could hear the smile in his breathing. Just maybe. Do not get confident. Too late. I looked at the clock. After midnight. Too late for a conversation this awake. Too late to pretend tomorrow would be normal. So what happens now? Caleb did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was careful, but not scared. Tomorrow. 4 o'clock. After my shift. My pulse jumped. Caleb. Not at Birch. A pause. There is a place 3 blocks over. Terrible coffee, apparently. Neutral ground. I pressed my fingers against my mouth, trying not to smile too hard. Are you asking me out? He exhaled. I am trying to. This time, I did not make him hang there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 4 o'clock. The silence after that felt warm. Caleb's voice came back softer. I really did miss your window seat. I looked down, smiling at nothing. I missed being there. And for the first time since I met him, neither of us tried to turn it into a joke. At 3:52 the next afternoon, I was standing across the street from Birch and 3rd, pretending I was not early enough to be embarrassing. I had changed shirts twice. I had checked my hair in the reflection of a parked Subaru. I had almost texted Caleb that maybe we should do another day, not because I wanted to cancel, but because wanting something that much made me feel exposed. Through the cafe window, I could see him behind the counter, still in his black apron, handing drinks to customers like it was any other day. Except it was not. Not for me. Not after midnight phone calls, and things finally said out loud. At exactly 4, Caleb untied his apron and disappeared into the back. 2 minutes later, he came out through the side door in a dark green jacket, hair slightly messy, looking around until he found me. His face changed when he did. No customer smile. No careful work voice. Just Caleb. You came. I tried to play it cool. I failed immediately. You sound surprised. He crossed the sidewalk toward me, hands tucked into his jacket pockets like he did not trust them. Not surprised. Just glad. That one got me. Right in the chest. For a second, we stood there with traffic moving behind us and people walking around us, both of us suddenly awkward in a way we had not been over the phone. Without the counter, without the table, without coffee as an excuse, there was nothing to hide behind. Caleb glanced toward the cafe window. Tessa was inside, wiping down the counter. She looked over at us, then very obviously looked away with the smallest smile. Caleb noticed and let out a breath. Great. She knows. Does that bother you? The question came out quiet. Caleb turned back to me. The answer did not come fast, which scared me for half a second. Then he shook his head. No, a pause. I think I am just used to acting like being careful is the same thing as being safe. I felt that more than I wanted to. Yeah. He looked at me for a moment, then stepped closer. Not dramatic. Not movie scene close. Just enough that our sleeves brushed. I do not want to be careful like that today. My heart kicked hard. I looked down at his hand. He looked down too. Neither of us laughed. Neither of us made it easier. Caleb's fingers moved first, slow enough that I could stop him if I wanted. I did not. His hand found mine between us, warm and a little nervous, and when his fingers curled around mine, everything in me went quiet. Not empty, not scared. Quiet like coming home after a long, loud day. I waited for him to pull away when someone passed. He did not. I waited for myself to panic. I did not. Caleb smiled at our hands like he could not believe he had done it. Is this okay? Yeah. My voice sounded rougher than I expected. More than okay. He nodded once, like that answer mattered. Then we started walking. The place 3 blocks over really did have terrible coffee. Caleb had not exaggerated. It was too bitter, the tables were too small, and the guy at the register spelled my name, even, which made Caleb laugh so hard he had to look away. See, I pointed at the cup. This is what I deal with. Caleb turned the cup toward himself, studying it with fake seriousness. Tragic. Honestly, I should have come with references. Your handwriting was your best feature. Was. His eyebrows lifted. That is harsh. I smiled into my coffee. Top 5. He leaned back in his chair, looking at me like he was still getting used to being allowed to. I will take it. We talked for almost 2 hours. About real things. Small things. His move from Denver. My terrible clients. His cousin Nate. My fear of making simple situations emotionally complicated. Caleb admitted he had started switching his break by 10 minutes because that was when I usually came in. I admitted I had once walked past Birch and 3rd, seen he was not working, and kept walking like I had never wanted coffee in the first place. He laughed, but his eyes softened. So we were both pathetic. Deeply. Good. Good. He reached across the tiny table. This time, there was no almost. His fingers rested over mine, gentle and sure. I would hate to be the only one. I looked down at our hands, then back at him. And that was the moment it hit me. Not with fireworks. Not with some huge speech. Just a quiet understanding that the routine had not been ruined. It had changed into something honest. The next morning, I went back to Birch and Third. Caleb was behind the counter, and Tessa absolutely did not pretend not to watch us. Morning, Evan. Caleb's smile was different now. Still warm. Still a little nervous. But open. Same as usual. I walked to the register, hands in my jacket pockets, trying not to grin like an idiot. Actually, I might try something new. Caleb stared at me like I had personally attacked him. That is bold. I am growing as a person. Terrifying. He made my usual anyway. Of course he did. And when he handed it to me, our fingers touched. Not by accident this time. I did not pull away. Neither did he. On the cup, under my name, he had written one small word. Not saved. Not missed. Just ours. I carried it to the window seat. The same one with the uneven leg and the half-working outlet. And Caleb joined me on his break 10 minutes later. He sat across from me like he belonged there. Maybe he did. Maybe some love stories do not start with a kiss or a confession. Maybe they start with someone remembering how you take your coffee, then remembering enough to make you feel seen. And maybe, if you are lucky, one day the person behind the counter stops being part of your routine and becomes the reason you look forward to tomorrow.